committee.
Talk to Wamatangi.
I talked to Wamatangi.
Is there a tender and evaluations committee here?
Would I be employed there? That is the question. But this is a private company. And gentlemen, before I move to the next story, I think this warrants a little discussion, because this is the kind of things that we see in this country. And tragically, if were it not for these investigations, perhaps this they wouldn't have revealed this. But he's just one among many, right? Let me begin with Kimani Wamatangi. If you look at the story of this young man, employed from USIU, 50,000, promoted to the tendering committee, 150,000, which was now triple his salary. And then suddenly, the first year, he buys houses worth 160 million shillings.
Well, you know, Ken, those facts being right, it's extremely incriminating, because you would have to have hit a jackpot that you can't hide if you're able to buy 160 million worth of property in one single year. And part of how you tell, and I am alive to the fact that that is a matter that is in court. It is subject to investigation, and also we have to be true to our law that every man is innocent until proven guilty. But two things, Ken. One, if you want to know in terms of an investor, because I'm a businessman and I've been around for a while now, and I can tell you a few facts for sure. In the property market, if you find most of the people who earn their money steadily and surely in investing in the property market, what they choose with that kind of money available in their hands is to build. Now, so that if you had that money, what you'd find somebody who is earning it in a stream that is steady, they would go and invest and start building and building, because they're sure about their resources and about their income, and they will have savings. But if money is pouring in sacks all of a sudden, then you need to quickly remove it, and it's that urgency to remove it that you find will force somebody to go and buy fully built up property and buy this one and that one and that one and that one. So that in itself becomes very suspect. Now, secondly, one of the biggest issues you ask any person attempting to do business in this country, and especially business with government, is those so-called tender committees. I recently went into one of the parastatals, and as I was sitting at the reception, you hear talk around there that oh, so and so, you know, of course I'm not an investigator, so I didn't get time to, but you hear names being mentioned, that money was taken to him and a team there to the tune of about 350 million in cash for this tender. And it's been going on. That's an open secret, Ken. It's not hidden. And if you want to see and find the most rich people in government now, and I've said this before on this platform, is those tender committee members, procurement officers, very junior officers in government. And if you look at, for example, what has been happening in NYS, most of those guys are procurement officers and tender people. And
amazingly, they never know even how to handle this money, because they come so careless. Like this guy, he said, you know, you buy 8 houses, same location, you know. Obviously, people will know. I'm not teaching them how to hide their money, but let's speak to Jacoy.
I think that's what you've just done. I think you've just taught the crooks that you have to stash them far apart.
Yes.
But first, let me just thank this Haji gentleman. I think he is leading the revolution in Kenya. And I think Kenya is going through a very interesting revolution. People are going to cry. This young man is just a drop in the ocean. There are many people who have been living like this. Many, many people. And that's why so many people are going to cry. Interestingly, they happen to, this guy stands out because he comes from Kisii. Nobody's crying out for him. But the other ones crying the cry will just be louder and louder and louder. because we must catch these thieves. And how I wish a gentleman, a person like that, he's not a gentleman. He is at the NHIF. You saw the prosecutors trying to say that people could have died. She is wrong. People died. People die in this country so wantonly. We will not stop this charade at the NHIF if we keep giving NHIF to private clinics and doctors. NHIF must be limited to government institutions because government generally does not steal from government. So it is a structural window that is letting these people steal. If you took NHIF to be a government facility that is used by government and by the to help the public, you will not have the things you are hearing. I think this is the smaller one of the scandals. Smaller one. I think there are many more
that we don't know about.
That we don't know about. All I want to plead, because I heard my friend Senator here saying those are, small things. They are fictitious. Ken, if you went to a Gor Mahia and an AFC match, and in the middle of the match, a referee pulled out a red card and flashed it, 9 out of 10 times, that red card will catch a Luo or a lawyer. So if the government is constituted by Kikuyus and Kalenjins, those are the people that we're going to catch. So stop making noise. Let the DPP and the DCI do their job. Thank you.
Okay. And Senator, this is just one of the government institutions. I'm looking at the other government institution that this happens, and I know they live within us and among us. KRA, very young junior KRA officials, same thing, and you wonder, how do they amass such wealth in so little time?
Well, that's the truth. There's nothing to hide about it. It's the Kenyan legend that goes about that when you drive in the village and you see a big house somewhere, say in Siaya, where Jakoyo comes from, and you ask, hey, what a beautiful home. What does this guy do? You're told, he works at KRA. And that's enough explanation for you to understand. You're left, your imagination is left to do the rest. This happens a lot. However, there are certain things that, and I think I agree with Kimani Wamatangi. He said the facts holding true. And I think that's a very good point to begin with. Because from experience, what I have come to realize also is that sometimes it is not enough until you hear the other side of the story. It will be good to know his defense. It will be good for him to tell us what is his magic. If he owns 8 houses and all that we know of him is that he is a receptionist at NHIF earning 150,000, no other known source of income, then for sure it will be proper for him to explain to the country. I would wish to hear from him what is his explanation of the source of his wealth. The reason why I say that is that when you read the Bible and in the book of Proverbs, I can't get the right verse off my head, but I can later give it. It says that when an accused is arraigned in court, he appears guilty until he's given the chance to also speak out, which is the truth. That sometimes when you hear from one side of the story, you say clearly, this is a thug and we need to set him off. So the thing is, until we hear and get to understand, because the questions that have been raised by DPP Nurdin are very credible. Everybody will want to know how somebody who earns 150,000 ends up with that amount of wealth. But for me to condemn him as Jakoyo would, I don't think I have all the material facts for me to render until I hear from either him or his lawyers the explanation of his source of wealth.
Okay. It's not even in reference to this particular individual only, but generally, this is the life, and unless you are a businessman, unless you are, even politicians are not that rich. Politicians, you don't find so many politicians with so much wealth. I mean, there is no explanation for me. Essentially, for me, there's no explanation. You can't explain that wealth. You can't.
You know, this country, we lost it when we started glorifying theft and vilifying the just. To the extent that, in fact, when you are in a certain position, it's like people expect you to steal. And if you don't, you are a fool. I think this kind of mindset has brought us problems. To the extent that now, the intelligent people in this country are so intimidated by the fools with their money. And these fools are also taking over the political space. To the extent that they have even bought degrees to rival the intelligent people. It is tragic. It is so tragic that let's not play with this war against corruption. The things that are ruining this country.
But Dr. Let me stop you. Why are we calling it corruption? This is theft.
It's theft, yeah.
Yes, it's
outright
corruption.
theft.
Yes.
The things that are ruining this country are tribalism, impunity, and corruption. These are the triplets we sired at independence. When we allowed public servants to do business with the government, we sired those three triplets: impunity, tribalism, and corruption. Until it has reached a stage where if you are not stealing, then you are like a fool. In fact, I'm wondering, the DPP is moving too slowly. He has not told us what's happening in roads. He has not told us what's happening at NSSF.
Yes.
Because one thing I know,
there is something in there.
You go to Karen, see who lives in Karen. Most of those people are public officers. Some of them very young to boot, holding very junior posts. I mean, it's there. It's obvious. I don't think you need some kind of genius to unearth these things. This country is rotten to the core.
Okay.
And this corruption money has now invaded the political space, and that is why we are having wrong-headed politics now, because the fellows running the political scene are not the right people. And that's the problem we are having. I mean, we have actually, if we are not careful, we might have damaged this country irreparably.
Okay.
Unless we bite the bullet now and say no more.
Okay.
It is not about tribes. It is. I mean, you can see it clearly here. That Sagwe is a Mukisi. The guy from NHIF is a Kikuyu. Yes. So it is not about tribes. It is about our values. We've lost our values.
Okay.
To the point that when you get a public service job, you've not got it to serve the people. You've got it to serve yourself and your family.
But that's how we've been cultured, Mheshimiwa. That's how we've been cultured, because the first thing you think of, if today, is there something I heard about policemen, when you're being employed, the first thing you ask for, can I go to the traffic department? You know, because that's where you know they'll be.
First of all, to be employed as a policeman,
yes,
in my rural place, you have sold land to bribe.
To get in there.
So
you want to recover your money first.
No, that means you've already employed the wrong person.
But even it's about the people taking the money.
To be a chief,
yes,
you sell land to bribe to be appointed as a chief.
Okay.
That is the wrong person. So actually, we've messed up this country totally.
Actually, I agree with you. As I speak to Dr. Halwale, I agree with you, because a friend of mine the other day just told me that even Karen has become undesirable because everyone lives there. Yes. He asked me, Ken, where are you living? Everyone lives in Karen nowadays. There's a lot of money.
You find some people there, and you wonder, now,
how did they get here?
If I've worked
all
diligently all these years and I've not managed to get here, how is this guy so smart that he got here?
Okay.
Then when you ask them, they say, well, you've been working hard, I've been working smart.
Exactly.
Now you are even glorifying working smart and giving it to people who don't deserve that title. You are giving it to thieves
We no longer earn money, Dr. Halwale. We make money in this town.
Yeah. I mean, look at this guy earning 150,000 bob.
Yeah.
And actually has property that can raise him rent way above
the money, but it's still
Why would you
sticking
stick to 150,000 for a job?
Bonnie.
I think Onyancha, just like Kafura, Josephine Kafura, in the NY scandal, is now the poster boy of the corruption at NHIF. Nothing new, because that is what Kenya has become. To me, is where are the control systems? They're there. The relevant institutions are in place. In fact, if Kenyans will care to know, it is not possible in this country for you to withdraw 1 million shillings from your account or deposit 1 million shillings into your account without the authorities being alerted. So it means that there is a chain of corruption which must be broken. The DPP has started making the right moves. But the big question is he getting the necessary support? If you ask me, the answer is no. From the time the DPP started making the big steps that he did, we have not seen a single case at the judiciary concluded. We would have loved by now, months since the DPP started taking action, to see that convictions have been made by the judiciary. So the question is on the judiciary, why are they dragging on cases concerning corruption? I would love a situation whereby, for example, members of parliament, and of course in conjunction with the judiciary, legislated quickly so as to make crimes against corruption be treated in the same way we treat election petitions. If we can conclude election petitions, which usually are more complex, to actually prove that somebody stole an election is more complex than to prove that Onyancha was stealing money. So which case should be concluded faster? The one of Onyancha or the one of an election petition? So people are sleeping on their jobs. What has now happened is that the issue of tendering has become like drug trafficking. That's why overnight, a young man can become a multimillionaire simply because he sits on the committee that makes the critical decisions when tenders have to be given out. Unfortunately, behind this young man, there is a procurement officer, highly qualified. There is an internal auditor, highly qualified. There's an accountant within the department or in the ministry, highly qualified, and there is a lawyer. So our professionals, much as my brother says that it is only the people with limited education who are stealing our degrees for them to earn the money we should have earned, much as you have a point, but also remember that the people I have described are highly qualified professionals.
Some of them stole their degrees.
Yes, some of the lawyers, it is true.
Some of them.
So
Yes,
is it time, Daktari, perhaps you think the whole evaluation tender committee should be looked at, not just an individual? Instead of targeting one individual, they should all be looked at, and probably we'll get such stories out of it.
What happened to the lifestyle audit? The lifestyle audit should have been serious, wider, and targeting very many people.
Okay.
Otherwise, that lifestyle audit that was so limited and we've never got the results is not going to be useful to us.
Okay.
Most of us who are on this panel, in fact all of us, have had an opportunity to read over and over again the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, either because you are sitting on Public Accounts Committee or you're chairing this or that in Parliament. And I can assure you that there is nothing wrong with that law. Nothing.
Okay.
The problem is in this country, impunity. Impunity. Why would the people, the internal audit, for example, allow this young man to become so rich within so short a time, unless, of course, the young man was a conduit to what was going on within
Okay.
that particular department.
Okay, as I conclude this discussion, I'd like to talk about the asset recovery, because now we are reading about the DPP and the asset recovery team moving in to freeze their bank accounts and recover and reserve these assets ahead of recovery. Is it even possible? Yesterday, we had the statistics that so far only $500 million, around 470 or 450 million shillings have been recovered so far by the EACC, and they're targeting a further 2.1. Against that, between 2011 and 2016, we have lost 368 billion shillings. Right?
I think, Ken, what you're saying is even an understatement, but I don't think that is the point. I think the assets will be recovered. I think the revolution is just beginning. I think what we need to do is go by the suggestion of Bonnie as a country.
Mm-hmm.
You have seen scenarios where people go back to court to say, allow me into my asset, give me back my asset. And the court system is the problem now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the political goodwill is beginning to show, but the courts are not working. The prosecution is still not working. But I think the systems, it takes time. I want to agree with Dr. Eseli and Bonnie that there's nothing wrong with the law, including that of asset recovery. The problem is the fabric of the society. We must do something from nursery school in terms of educating our people about values. We just don't have the values to go with it. We need to go basic. It is not only the big fish. Why is it that you try driving from here to Buruburu or try driving here to Naivasha? See how many policemen are on the road taking 50 shillings. It is what we are seeing. What do you want our children to see? I want the politicians, the political leadership, which is Uhuru Kenyatta. Number one, to stop open corruption, where you see people, money exchanging hands and people dying. Like this matatu is killing people. We are seeing it. What do you expect a kid who has seen, they know they are sitting in a matatu that is full, carrying excess passengers, and is seeing a policeman taking 50 shillings. Why can't we go back to the point where we were at the beginning of 2003, where ordinary people could arrest policemen? The problem is this open corruption. You know, you can't even blame this kid. He grew up seeing corruption openly. He doesn't know any other way. So we must stop them. But we must stop the future generation from seeing open graft. Take it out of the roads. Like Dr. Eseli says about, for you to survive in police force, you must be in a traffic department. I was the last person who revised the traffic rules in this country. There's nothing like Michuki rules. They are Jacoyo rules. Yeah. I am the one who did the raft of the amendments. I deleted in law the so-called traffic department. It is not there in law. But you still see people on the streets with those black and white berets. Why is the police resisting? They are the ones arresting the Onyanchas, but they are the ones resisting change in their own departments. So we must look at this thing holistically. And to the asset recovery, like the 8 houses, they should have gone back to the public immediately. You know, the courts must allow us, don't drag these cases in court.
I hold a different view on Jacoyo's last point. I know, because of all this trouble that we've been through as a country, reading about this theft, you know, you imagine the kind of anger that boils down the population or the republic. You're a young parent, you can't afford to pay school fees for your kids, your child is sick, you take them to hospital, your NHIF card is not working, then you read this kind of stories. You're bound to be angry. And that is very much justified. But as leaders, it is not in our place to get angry, Jacoyo. It is in our place to ensure that things are done properly. In countries that have managed to slay the dragon of corruption, at least to levels that the country can be proud of and say that we are nearing zero tolerance to corruption, it is not by doing what you're asking the courts to do. It is by making the criminal justice system functional. And it's not about telling the court that whoever is presented before you, charge them so that the country can be happy and we can say that you are fighting corruption. You know, the point that we should be making is to ensure, you know, in a country like ours, Jacoy, where opposition is completely dead, parliament has been muzzled, then the only other place that we have where people can get a fair hearing, because we want to condemn the right thieves and not acquit those who have stolen and condemn innocent people, is by ensuring that our criminal justice system is properly functioning. And I don't think the right way to tell them is that anybody that appears before you, quickly judge them. I think that's the wrong advice.
But before, I want to speak to Kimani, but I just want you, Senator, to answer one question. When you find a thief stealing, when you find why are you still taking them to court? Take them to jail. You found them stealing.
Friend,
why must you subject them to the judicial process? You found them stealing.
Because we are a democracy. Because
but
we
that's what we've been doing, Senator.
It is because of this document that is before
But
here.
nothing has changed with that document.
We live under a constitution.
Nothing has changed with that document.
My friend.
Nothing has changed.
Back in the ancient,
yes,
when things used to be done the way you're proposing, then even anybody who disagrees with you and you are a ruler, the next thing that you need to do is just to parade them and say, I've caught him stealing.
No.
To ensure.
There's apparent stealing. There's apparent stealing.
Listen, Ken.
Yes.
Listen and listen to me very well. Yes. In proper application of the law, and they say this, that in the moral philosophy of the law, you'd rather have 99 thieves walking on the streets than have one innocent person.
Man. I agree with you. I agree with you.
That's all we are arguing for.
Okay.
A fair. How difficult is it?
But
just
it's taking time, like Bonnie says. It's taking
and
time.
Not mobile lynching.
Let me hear Kimani. Let me hear Kimani.
Ken.
Yes.
Two things. First is that remember a few weeks ago, the DPP was in court himself. And when the DPP went to court, he was petitioning the court to make certain judgments in view of matters that he had himself previously prosecuted, but felt that in the way things are being done and have been done, then his quest for what you would call results was being frustrated. And that's why he had moved to court. Unfortunately, or most likely, he wouldn't, in our court system, in our judicial system, succeed in that kind of quest. And so what does that tell you? It is my view that for this fight against corruption to succeed, that for us to be able to have what we yearn for, and what you have heard from our leaders, my colleagues here, all speaking about, I think we need a serious sit-in between ourselves as legislators, between the executive of government, between those whom we have mandated to lead this fight, for example, the DCI, the DPP, and the judiciary. Because there are certain fundamental changes that must be made in various laws to make it effective. I'll give you an example. For example, if you look at the law around counties and so on, and even in the constitution, it is only probably within county governments where a governor is recognized by law as the chief executive officer of a county, and thus that makes him also culpable for decisions that are made that are financial, even if it is made downwards by a CEC. Now, but if you look at, for example, at parastatals, where you have board chairmen and CEOs and MDs, if you look at the binding law itself, in terms of execution of duties, the call to roles and decisions, and especially financial decisions, you will find that there exists a lot of disconnect, such that actually what you had, I'm sure you listened to some of the submissions by the lawyers who are there, including, the humorous one that these are generic charges. You had one saying there's no charge here, these people. And I'll tell you, unless we fill in those vacuums in law, because they exist differently. And that would only happen if we all made that decision, that unless we get to sit, and I would want to urge the DPP and the DCI, if they want to succeed fully, because what we are trying to change is a culture and a way of doing things. But as long as we deal with it the way we are dealing with it, but yet the fabric of it is not yet sorted, we will fight this fight, go on ahead, but eventually we'll go back to where we are. Now, lastly, on this question that you had asked on assets, maybe I would ask a question. Since when we started recovering assets and up to now, when have we had, or probably you can, in the media, have you heard probably that all the assets that were recovered in this year and that year, they were disposed of, these monies were injected back to the public service or system or wherever? So, I mean, you would want to ask yourself, since all those, forget this that were recovered last week and last year and this year, but since time immemorial, when have you had a statement somewhere saying that all these were the assets that were recovered in the year 2013 up to 2017, and so now we have liquidated them, and this money is now injected back to? If you want to know, one of the most controversial places in this government and in every government, it is a place called unclaimed assets, where there lies billions and billions and billions upon billions of shillings that are unutilized. And the question always is asked, how do you do with this money? Use it to do this, but it still lies there. Okay. In that assets recovery program, even right now, you will see statements, we have recovered these assets, we have recovered these assets. But to prove to those who make it their business to plunder and loot public assets and property and funds, the demonstration would be more complete if you said that all the assets we recovered from this team publicly, you have seen they have been liquidated, they have been injected, and you have said we have built 5 primary schools in the Ministry of Education using these funds that were stolen by people who are charged in stealing or with stealing from the Ministry of Education. In NHIF or any other place, you would be saying we have built this dispensary. If it is in any other place, and then people would get to now internalize and understand that indeed these funds are supposed to go into that system. But if we make it, this continuous,
we recover. We don't. We have to take a break unless it's very pressing.
I think first thing we need to do is change our audit system. First, beef up the Auditor General's office. Put in the right personnel, including engineers, architects, and all those, and then go to performance audit, value for money audit, as the only audit system.
Okay.
That way, we'll start catching these people. And from the auditor's reports, the DPP moves. Stop this EACC. EACC is a gatekeeper of corruption. Get them out of there. Auditor's report, DPP moves.
Okay. And DPP such as Kinoti. All right, gentlemen, I think we've exhausted this discussion unless...
We've not.
You've not exhausted.
Because when you talk about assets,
Yeah.
the EACC itself sits in a house that belongs to the government and has been stolen by lawyers.
Yes.
They're paying the DPP, I mean the EACC is paying rent, that house called Integrity Center.
They bought it finally.
No, but who sold it? Where was it sold? I know the story of Integrity Center, and I know the people who have been who are involved in trying to take it away from the government. They have succeeded, but the DPP sooner or later, I'm sure, will move in there. I know his work is cut out for it. But I wanted to say this finally. I think even as we end this debate, this discussion, it is fair for us when we talk not to try to say that the courts have to prove the DPP right. The DPP has done his investigations. It is the courts to sit there and arbitrate. Let their lawyers prove them. But now that we are saying that the DPP must prove somebody guilty after doing investigations, that is also true. But the DPP is doing a good job. Like this case of Onyancha, which is the subject of discussion. It could never have been revealed that the boy has bought 8 houses if the DPP did not investigate. So we cannot begin by castigating him Let me tell you the story of Jerry Rawlings and Ghana. I've been to Ghana a few times. It is a country which people are civilized. They are black like us. When they talk, they are not loud. When they reason well. They have very few thieves. You see, when we are increasing taxes, they are zero rating VAT because they are reasoning together. What did Jerry Rawlings do? When he took power militarily, and let me advise my young brother, the good senator, he took these people to a stadium and shot them. And the people told him, it is not enough after he had shot 15 people. And he said, some people may be innocent. The people said, send us message. Sometimes you have to do it. The Chinese who have brought this corruption here now, in China, if you fail to pay your taxes, if you steal, it is the bullet, it is not the court. And your family must pay for the bullet that killed you before they are given the body. That is what happens in China. So we must zero rate corruption in some kind of way, and we cannot use the courts because the courts are not working.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This corruption,
Can we take a break?
This corruption of ours,
Yeah.
I've said this before and I want to repeat it. It starts at budget making.
Okay.
You see, like NYS 1, they got a supplementary budget which they didn't deserve and went ahead to steal it. Look at Kenya Pipeline. They got a supplementary budget
13 billion.
which they should not have got, and they proceeded to steal it. It starts at budget making stage.
Okay.
So I also lay blame to the house where I sit in, Parliament, that we are not tracking the budget properly. We are not actually interrogating the budget properly. That is why we are having all these problems. But something simple, like trying to enforce the Michuki rules. What has happened is we have just made the traffic police richer. Yeah. All they are doing, yesterday I was driving to Thika, and you can't believe it. There's a place where they have written 110. That means you should do a speed of at least 110 kilometers per hour. This policeman flags me down. I stop and he tells me you are doing 114. I told him, my friend, I did not even go beyond 90. So we argued for a while. Then I told him, by the way, what you are doing is wrong. If this is what you are doing to all the wananchi, ni makosa sana. And then he let me go.
Okay.
You know, and I mean, what he was trying to do was to see if he can get some money,
Out of it.
But
Okay.
this is sick. If the police are at that point, then who is actually guarding us?
Okay.
Who is guarding us?
All right. Gentlemen, on that note, you say we've not exhausted the conversation. We'll see after the break if we can talk more about it. But when we come back, I'd also like to talk about now the tribal connotation that is underlying the war on corruption and what has been said about it. Stay with us. We're back in a moment.
Kuishi hii life ya mwanaume kamili ni lazima ujue status yako ya HIV.
Right. Welcome back. And we're having quite some discussion here about corruption. My guest this morning is Kimani Wamatangi, the Senator for Kiambu County, Jacob Midio, former Member of Parliament for Game. We have Aaron Cheriet, Senator Kericho, Eselisi Miu, member from Tongaren, and former Senator for Kakamega, Boni Halwale. Welcome back, gentlemen. And we continue this discussion. And as we discuss this, also have in mind the fact that the war on graft now, it's going tribal. Even as we talk about how to ensure that we end this, I just want your comments also in relation to the fact that now it's, oh, you're targeting our community, or why is it this community that is always being hounded in court and that. And let me begin with Mheshimiwa, okay, from Tongaren.
I think what we should know is tribalism, impunity, and corruption are bedfellows. They are bedfellows. So, of course, if you start targeting corruption, you'll find the tribe involved. And with that, impunity comes in. I think for a long time, those of us who have not been in Jubilee have complained that the Jubilee administration is exclusive. They are only employing people from certain places, especially the high jobs, MDs, CEOs, and things like those. So now, if people from those places start complaining that their people are the ones being arrested, it's because they are the ones who got the jobs. Nobody else got those jobs. Those who had those jobs were sacked and replaced by these people. So it's part of the problem of Kenya. Tribalism, impunity, and corruption. Okay. They run together. So I think, yes, if you arrest all these people, assuming that they have all wronged, you'll find that the majority of them will be Kikuyu and Kalenjin.
Okay.
That is a result of Jubilee's bad behavior from the time they took over the administration. The handshake did not change this fact. Let's face it, the handshake didn't change that fact. So, because Jubilee misbehaved, you'll find that the arrests will be mainly those two tribes.
Okay, but it's not the first time that we hear them saying our tribe is targeted. Look at even the last parliament, the leaders in various fields. When you invite them at the EACC, they come with their supporters who are their tribesmen. So this bad manners has not been
in court yesterday.
Didn't begin. Yes,
you saw it in court yesterday.
Yes.
When the people were taken to court, they were all escorted by their friends, their tribesmen,
but then,
and
gentlemen,
so on.
how do we divorce? Is it even
because
possible?
the people themselves have been glorifying these people who have made money
in the village.
In the villages.
Yes.
So when that person is arrested, the villagers feel a loss because they get handouts from this person.
Okay.
So they come to support that person. I think we need to really relook seriously about our values as a society, our values as Kenyans, and where do we want to take Kenya for the future of our descendants.
Senator Cheriot, you're shaking your head. I know you've not spoken about our community being targeted, but it looks as though your community is being targeted.
Well, you know, I get lost when this discussion begins about our community being targeted, because for sure, at the very least, I do not hold that view. I do not believe that there's a specific community that is being made to pay for what is going on. But, I say but 3 times. Celebrated English writer, Beatrice Hall, once said that I may detest what you're saying, but I will defend your right to say it up to the point of death. So the question that we should be asking ourselves this morning is, what is it that these people are saying? We may not like when they say that certain members of our community are being unfairly tried, but do we pause for a moment and listen and follow through the kind of arguments they are making? Let me give you an example. You're very much aware of the KPLC issue of what happened with Ben Chumo and Tarus. If we had a credible and properly functioning, even just media where you work, Ken, and they had properly done their homework, you would have known what are the merits and the demerits of a case that is facing those two gentlemen. An MD signed the contract. There was later a dispute which went through court process, and eventually the company entered into an out-of-court settlement, which is now subject to dispute. The MD who signed those contracts and signed KPLC to buy those transformers continue to sit in office today as a PS for energy. It's called Njoroge someone. Joseph Njoroge. His head of human resource and chief accountant then have been tried and they've been told, you paid for faulty transformers. Tell me, how does it make sense to you that the MD, where in other places you go for the MD together with his people, but for this particular one, you decided to charge his director of human resource and charged his chief accountant, but left out conveniently the MD. When people begin to raise such credible questions, do not just shut them up and tell them, keep quiet, you are defending your tribesmen. Let me tell you about this KPC that Mheshimiwa Eseli is speaking about. I am very much aware of the issues in KPC because last parliament, as well as in this parliament, I sit in the energy committee. This Kisumu oil jetty that people are speaking about, I was there in Kisumu last year during the campaigns when we launched it together with the president, the deputy, the chairman of KPC, and I know the history of it, that this was an East African community treaty projects. Those that when presidents sit, they agree and say, your country will do this, the other one will do this. There are memos written by none other than Kinjwa, the head of public service, directing the cabinet secretary that please, can you hasten the process of this Kisumu oil jetty? The minister goes ahead and writes to the MD that ensure that you carry out this project as soon as possible, because the president has made commitments in Arusha that Kenya we will do our face. They go ahead and do it. Then we come and castigate them and say, because I read the story that you ran in the Nation yesterday, the whole argument why you splashed the photo of the cabinet secretary for energy is that he never stopped them from implementing the project despite it not being in the budget. The obvious reason is, the reason why they did it in such a hastened process is because Kinjwa wrote to the minister wrote to the MD. Why haven't we seen Kinjwa record a statement? So when people begin to raise very critical questions about the things that are happening, do not reduce the debate into a very...
It's the cost that's wrong.
You know, no, the whole story, I mean, we are in the nation media. Tell them to bring you the newspaper.
It's the cost of the
Tell
jetty.
them to bring you the newspaper and read what
The
they
cost-
wrote.
the cost
That they
of the
did a
jetty
project
is wrong.
out of budget. Go and see the pleadings that were made in court.
But now you are actually falling into my trap. These people you've mentioned, Kinjwa and so on, Joroge and so on, there are still two communities, Kalenjin Kikuyu, the ills of the Jubilee establishment.
Okay.
Let me weigh in.
What about Ben? I'm not being unfair to Boni. Boni will have his time. We've just come from
I
break.
think I had no.
You will speak, Boni. No, Boni will speak, yes.
Ken.
Yes.
But of course, and it would be good also to hear the views of Boni, and I think he spoke before me.
Yes, he did speak in the other break, yes.
So I think we are being fair to everyone. you know, Ken, just on two issues. First, you know, you started with a very humorous part there of people being escorted to court by their tribes, by their kinsmen, and so on. And you know, critically looking at it, other than when it is done by politicians, remember a few 2 or 3 years ago when the first arrests were being done, just before the elections, I think you remember NYS1 and so on, people used to go escort at that time, but that time it was very well pre-planned. And you would find people dancing outside the Integrity Center building, waiting for a suspect to arrive, you know, before the suspect has arrived. and then when the suspect arrived, they would arrive in style. and you know, and of course, you know, that was probably taking it beyond. But of course, on the other hand, remember, even when one is condemned to hang, Ken, you are also told you are given a few moments to speak to your family, and they ask, is his wife around? Because, I mean, it is also common sense and knowledge that at whatever point you are in life, whether you have been condemned or whatever, there are still people who are close to you. And that's why even people come to your funeral, even though you would have been shot dead or stealing. Now, however, this question of community targeting, I think, is the one that is very interesting, because you hear the twist that
Eseli has
Eseli has put in.
It's
But
true.
then
It's true.
you have had your time. You've had your time to speak,
No,
Eseli.
Jubilee has been very bad for this.
Eseli, you have had your time to speak. So now that you have used already in the air, now because I think, Eseli, you need to take a look at the newspapers that you have in front of you and read the names, actually, of the people who are charged. It's a whole spectrum. It's across every community. Those are the people who are actually in court yesterday. So you would be wrong. And actually, you are very wrong on that in that perception. But then moving on, my brother Cheriot here also has now delved into prosecuting the case himself and coming with a few details. And I'll be saying, you see, I think what we should be doing ourselves as leaders in the first place is, once those matters are taken to court, we should be urging that let that court process then, one, and that is what I started by saying in my first statement, that those facts as produced in court really need to have held true or to hold true to lead to the process of that person being charged. But then, from that point on, as leaders, we should be saying, let's have an expeditious and influenced, non-partisan process that will ensure that the truth has come out.
Okay.
Because, for example, and probably that's what I would also be saying to my brother Cheriot here, is you see, if I would say that Boni Halwale is the one who said this, and so that is why he should have been charged along with Jakoyo and so on, would be losing it, because there are merits of a case, and of course you cannot be able to bring them out with that kind of disposition. So whatever role, probably advisory or instructive, maybe the Kenyua may have played, or the issue here is, if those matters have been taken to court, can we see a process that will be fast, that will be quick, that will be uninfluenced, that will give results eventually, and if people are innocent, they should be let go the way that they were taken to court. And actually, even if, where possible, reparations, reinstatements done, because then that is damage to those people's reputations and careers, if indeed they are found not to be guilty. But if they are guilty, there is no way, there is no place in this country now and in the future that we can make an argument that because that person is my neighbor or my friend or is from my community, that we would try to make an argument that we want to either to shield them. That one we must all be very, very clear about. The only way to heal this country and to help our neighbors, even me, myself, as a member of Jubilee, and even from that community, if I want my children who are now in school to find a country where they can make a better life and a better place, I must start by saying that any Kikuyu who is either my neighbor or my community man who is guilty of plunder must also face the law fully.
Okay. Yeah. Boni.
This is a serious matter of governance, and it exists on the triad of bad politics, tribalism, and corruption. The difference between Ochieng and Kamau, Cheruiyot and Hamadi, is that one has an opportunity to be corrupt, the other one doesn't have. The country being, I can assure you, remove all these Kalenjins from office.
Put Luos there.
Remove all these Kikuyus from office.
Yes.
Put a Luo president there and a Luo deputy president there. Let them appoint members of their family. Same thing is going to happen.
So we don't all have integrity.
Yeah, so there's nothing like Kalenjins are more corrupt than Kikuyus, or Kikuyus are less corrupt than Mijikendas and what have you. It's all in the national psyche that we have embraced tribalism, we have embraced bad politics, we have embraced corruption. I'm saying this because the people who have an opportunity exercise corruption. And to have that opportunity, you have to be put in a place where that opportunity exists. You are normally put in that opportunity by the politician.
Like the young man made taken to the tender.
So the bottom line is that the buck will stop with the politician.
Okay.
Politicians have to start exercising good politics to ensure that when they appoint people, they are appointing them knowing that they are going to discharge a national duty. This, unfortunately, is not the case. Let me tell you, and I didn't want to go this route this morning, but you are now forcing me, because somebody wants to unfairly profile one community or the other one. Even in the little opportunities that we in the oppositions had when government was being formed, be it putting people in charge of committees in parliament or those kind of little things, we gave it to members of our tribes. I mean, that is how Wetangula ended up losing a small thing called leader of the minority, because he was not in the right mindset of the agenda of the bad politics of tribes in this country.
Was that the reason, Bonnie?
Okay, now you have invited it.
No, that is not the reason.
So let me
the reason
expand.
is Wetangula is one senator, if I got it right, and ODM had more senators in the Senate. So definitely, if you have to be the leader of minority, you have to have numbers. I'm still speaking to Bonnie. That's my reasoning. Because if you go that route, we'll also talk about Terer and Keter, who are removed from committees, you know. So you
listen to Bonnie. He's
Okay.
a party leader for Kenya.
no, but we have to be factual. But we have to be factual when we talk about it.
Yes,
Yes.
he knows what he's telling you. He's right.
But we have to be factual also.
You know,
about it.
Jeriot,
ODM is very selfish.
But Ken is strongly defending.
No, I'm not defending ODM. I'm
Allow
just
these
trying
leaders
to.
to tell you the truth.
No,
Because
I'm
they
just
know
trying to
better
look
than
at
you
it.
can.
No. You can't assume they know it better than me and I exist in this world.
No,
That's an unfair
because
statement.
listen. You see, while you're in the newsroom, they are in the heart of where those decisions are made in politics, so they know why it was made.
Why is Duale the leader of majority in the National Assembly?
No,
no.
just
Just
listen to
answer me,
Alwale.
then I go back to Bonnie. Why is Duale the leader of majority?
It courtesy of a decision by the Jubilee
By
Party.
the Jubilee
parliamentary
Party?
group.
Exactly.
you know.
It can't be about politics.
Viewers will forgive you very quickly.
You know, that's the problem with Kenya. When we have a problem, we try to paper over it and gloss it and make it look nice when it really isn't. I know for a fact the positions.
Bonnie, yes, it's Bonnie.
I'll hand over to you.
Let's
The positions.
Bonnie is very quiet
The
today.
positions in Jubilee were dictated.
Were dictated,
from state
exactly,
house.
exactly.
The positions
Were dictated from Orange House.
in NASA
Yeah.
were dictated from Orange
House. Okay, Bonnie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing like a parliamentary.
Allow me to call.
Okay, let's give Bonnie time. Yes, Bonnie, please. We'll not interrupt you.
And then we can also,
With the permission of the panel, allow me to call our moderator
To order.
because the viewers will forgive you very quickly for your views when I reveal you are the DNA of your body. You come from the same place of the people that you are trying to defend.
No, not really. That's not factual.
So
also.
relax.
Yeah, no, that's not factual also.
My brother, I was making a very important statement that there are no angels in the opposition, just like we think there are devils in government. You have challenged me about Wetangula. Okay, leave that one.
Yes.
But is it by happenstance, is it by accident, or is it by design that move away from the leader of my minority in the Senate, the chairman of public accounts in the Senate is from the same ethnic community. The chairman of public accounts in the National Assembly is from the same ethnic community. The leader of the minority in the National Assembly is from the same community.
Yes.
The leader of the minority in the Senate is from the same community. So this nonsense of tribalism should be actually slayed, starting from this particular panel. I tell you, I worked in one parliament with Jakoyo when he was chief whip. He was a fantastic chief whip. Him and Johnson Mudama during the era of the Grand Coalition government. They would come up, I was in the House Business Committee, they would come up and give anybody who was deserving, seen to have that which it takes to bring value to the committee, an opportunity to serve. Now, people are being given an opportunity to sit on committees purely because of the tribe you come from. I mean, that is how low we have sunk with Jacoyo. How I wish Parliament was still functioning the way it used to function.
Including the witness.
I have been told on this set and another one, Bonnie, that Parliament is our best bet now. Parliament is actually functioning. I've been told several.
Is it?
Can
I've been
I
told
say
so.
something?
But
I think
yes,
Bonnie
yes,
was
Jacoyo
not-
should now speak.
Let me
Jacoyo,
defend
yes.
Bonnie a bit. Bonnie, thank you for the nice accolades. But remember, I'm also from the same DNA. So if I worked well, it can still be better. The fact that ODM is rogue does not mean, I don't think it's an angle of tribalism. Let me tell you this rectangular thing. The Speaker of the Senate,
Collaborated. Was a collaborator.
he was a collaborator and he's lawyer. He took out Wetangula, who is his village mate.
and came home celebrating.
And came home celebrating because he is the one. It was the lawyer who did in a lawyer. I know.
It's true.
Let me
He celebrated at home next to my home.
Can I contribute?
Let's allow
Can I contribute?
Yes.
Because I think it's besides the point.
Yes.
No,
let Jacoyo speak, then you'll speak, Kimani.
You had the opportunity. But the accusations they make, they should make fair accusations to people who are not here.
No,
You shall defend
no.
Lusaka, don't worry.
Let me just tell you.
Yes,
Let me
yes,
just
I
tell
agree with you,
Because it's neither here nor there. Because the law says standing orders and otherwise, and even the whole thinking of our constitution is that leaders of majority and minorities are selected by their political parties. So when a speaker allows a general vote of all membership of the Senate, the law is broken.
It didn't,
No.
that's not what happened.
Come on,
I mean,
but
we can't
listen,
relax
listen,
that bit.
we
Come
can't-
on. I sit in
You
the
sit-
Senate.
No,
we
you
cannot
were-
make
you were
up
the
of
floor
lies.
that day?
Yes,
Please,
my
please,
friend.
please.
That what?
Please, can I just continue?
No, let me help you.
Chariot.
No, but
He read out minutes of RPG.
That's what I'm wondering. Essentially, you are out of order. You are out of order.
How was
You know-
Wetangula appointed?
you-
Was from NASA.
How
was
It was not from NASA.
Essentially,
And why did Lusaka accept that?
Gentlemen,
Lusaka is rogue.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we have to have order here.
Yeah,
We have to have
we
order.
must have some order.
Yes,
Let
let
us
Jacoyo
have
speak,
order.
then you speak,
And
Kimani.
such that if it is
Jacoyo
him
speaking,
who is
he
having
needs
an
to speak.
opinion,
After
Yes.
Jacoyo is
let him
No,
speak.
okay.
And
Jacoyo,
then after
go
that,
ahead.
no,
Okay.
it's not you, Chariot.
I'll
After
choose who
Jacoyo,
speaks
it is
next.
Wamataki.
No,
Then Wamataki, it is. And Esseli should
No,
be controlled.
Kimani, please. Yes. Esseli is wrong.
I think Ken. I think Ken. Bonnie
You'll also be
had
banned.
called you to order.
Okay.
Yes, you must control whoever speaks.
Yes.
Please,
So,
go on.
and I don't think we are doing you a favor by keeping quiet. I think it is good decorum to keep quiet when others are
Yes.
talking, because we are talking
Go
to the
ahead.
general
Go
public.
ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Ken, I want to address my young senator brother here. You know, when you come here and begin talking about Kisumu Jetty and all those things, I think we are crossing the line about issues which are in court. I am not a lawyer, but I know the limit. When you begin defending people who are accused of plundering, because this is plunder, it's not even corruption, this is open theft, that if they stole, they also stole with Kenya. Let me tell you something about Kenya.
That's not what I said.
No, you said, how come Kenya has never written a statement? I was a member of Finance Committee in Parliament for 10 years when Kenya was the Permanent Secretary for Finance. He's a fine gentleman. His role now has nothing to do with the cost of the jetty. It's to okay the process, the need, if the country needs it, and all those things.
I was speaking as to
man.
out of budget. Your
You will have an opportunity. You will have an opportunity. You will have an opportunity to speak.
No,
Which is okay. You will have an opportunity to respond to him once he's done.
We were here. I used English, not Kalenjin. But why is he putting words into my
You will
No,
respond.
because I
Jacoyo,
think
proceed.
you're thinking in Kikalenjin. It is wrong.
It's you who's understanding in the Luo.
It's okay.
Gentlemen.
But Luos are intelligent,
No.
so
Gentlemen,
and I'm
calm
Can you
down.
have some order?
But I'm just saying,
Yes.
we said, Ken, my first contribution was that if you go to a football match of AFC and Gor Mahia, and a referee took out a red card and flashed it on a player, 9 out of 10 times, that player will be either Luo or Luya. That is the way the Jubilee government is constituted. What we are saying, it must bother Kenyans. And there's nothing wrong with talking about it, because we are talking about issues which are taken care of in our constitution. Why is it that all parastatals happen to, where there is money, happen to be only one tribe? That in itself is corruption. We must reconstitute our country. We must constitute our government. We must stop scenarios where people steal, where when they sit, wherever they're talking, they talk in their language to plan to plunder public funds. I think we can do that for our people. We can do that for our people. You know, when I have never had, even the tribe of my friend Wamatangi, when they're arrested, when Munungaru was in court, when Kimunya was in court, when everybody, I've never heard them making noise. You know, you are treating us to primitivity, and that is wrong. That is wrong. As a people, we must move forward. This country went through so much to do a constitution which gave us chapter 6 of our constitution. That 10 years later, we still have people sitting in office that are unwilling to live with chapter 6, and they are saying it is okay. It is wrong. When CS, Cabinet Secretary for Finance, wrote to Keter and said, this money you can't absorb. He wrote to the MD, why are we defending them? That guy is not a targeter. He's not Nurdin Haji. He's the Minister of Finance. He's also as challenging as this other guy he was writing to. He said something is improper. How come these people didn't listen? Because they thought this day would not come. How happy am I that the day of revolution has come in our country. It shall bite, and it must bite.
Okay. You know, Eseli has been interjecting, but he hasn't spoken on this topic. So I'll let him speak, because he's been interjecting. You'd think he's spoken. Then Kimani, you will speak.
He's spoken
He's been interjecting a lot, but he's not spoken.
No,
He's not spoken, to be fair to him.
It's unfortunate.
Let him go ahead.
This country, we have one problem. When we are faced with a difficulty, we don't sit down and solve that difficulty. Instead, we try to paper over it and, sweep it under the carpet and, or even sugarcoat it and make it look okay. I think we have a serious problem on corruption, theft, and all that. That is because when we were fighting the colonialists, we were justified to sabotage what the colonialists were doing in the country. We were justified to steal money from those colonialists because it was part of the war for independence. But after independence, we didn't get out of that mindset that now the government is ours and we should not steal from it, because when we steal from it, we are stealing our own money. We didn't get over it. And that is where our problem is.
Okay.
There are departments in this country where people can speak their mother tongue. They can conduct everything in their mother tongue and get away with it. We should look at other countries. Is it Mauritius or Malaysia, where where they have got quota system, in the sense that the tribes that constitute that country have been, through census, they have known the percentages. So when they are employing people in the public service, it's represented by those percentages.
Okay.
We need to do it here, rather than saying that the public service has got this percentage of lawyers when most of them are sweepers and cleaners. We need to have it at all levels. We have a problem on tribalism here. So we must legislate against tribalism.
Okay.
We must legislate against it.
Okay.
And that tribalism, and I said from the beginning, that tribalism is what breeds impunity and corruption.
Okay.
Because everybody feels secure in their tribe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
And that's
so
why you find
we
them
have
being
to be very,
escorted to
we have
court.
to be very deliberate if that has to happen.
Yes,
It has to be
we
a
must be
move.
deliberate. That's why I was saying
Yes.
that we Kenyans
Yes.
don't want to face the problems we have
Okay.
and come up with solutions.
Senator
we must
Kimani.
come up with solutions on tribal issues.
Senator.
Okay, Ken. I think, well, my view, because we've really debated that point, but my concern is this, that if we take it beyond where we are right now in this discussion, and alongside the cue we've taken now, we may actually start to, unfortunately, water down what is happening. Because, when we introduce now the political angle with certain political interests, because as a politician you must also have certain interests, you find then that we run the risk again of losing the momentum and the goodwill that has been there in fighting corruption. Because the reason I say this is, Ken, this perception that continues to be built all over, one is non-factual. It's not supported by any facts.
Which one? Which is this
For
perception?
example, when we talk about positions held or appointments in public offices being held entirely by two communities or by a few communities, because you only need probably to do a rundown, for example, of the cabinet positions we have right now, and write down the name of each cabinet secretary in the position they hold, and you will start to discount all those facts as non-factual. The fact that probably when you have a certain individual in a certain office, either by doing good or bad, by the fact that that person either has excelled or has plundered the docket that they are in, and then they are lifted high in public limelight, does not necessarily mean that is the signal, or that is the symbol of everybody else. And what I would be saying is that if we continue to perpetuate this, especially when we have a new constitution, when we have set out laws, when we have commissions, when we have boards that we as leaders know how they are comprised and how people are appointed into. I mean, starting from the IBC that we've just, right now almost defunct, from all the other commissions, and you see how appointments happen. We would run that very big risk. I want to say categorically in this forum that it is untrue, very untrue, that positions that are useful, that are instrumental, that would guide this country are held by two communities. What we want to say, and this would be my word, Ken, is it does not matter. I said that in a few minutes before. It doesn't matter the name of the person in that office. To me, it doesn't matter the place they come from, or who their neighbors are, or who their kinsmen are. As long as they have taken that oath with their right hand and committed to serve this country and be of their best in public service, then they must do so. If they fail to do that, either by virtue that they steal, that they plunder, then they must face the full force of the law.
Okay.
And unless we go that way, if we continue to entertain this discussion here as political leaders ourselves, that, because there's that community, what we are doing, even for example, for the argument that is being made by Sally, does not help us, does not help this country. Because what he's simply saying is that if there were 2 or 3 or more of his neighbors, he would be happier. That's not the kind of country we want to build. Okay. What we are saying is that at every time, what we must stand for is meritocracy.
Okay.
End of story. Yeah.
Bonnie,
burning one. Just
yes. Okay.
two quick points.
Okay.
The first one is to appeal to my brother Jekoyo. You should stop looking for scapegoats. Lusaka did not originate, did not prosecute the removal of Wetangula for the reason that you and Eseli, you know very well that under the standing orders, the motion to change membership of a committee is not originated by the speaker. It is originated by the whip of that particular party, and then the motion is moved, the speaker only presides over it. What did you want Lusaka to do? My second point is The problem my brother Eseli is having,
Just go to your second point.
No. Before I go there, let me preempt him. Eseli, you must not confuse this national debate with the local politics of Bungoma. You know very well that. That's your own problem. Don't feed us on your problems in Bungoma, where obviously Lusaka is a threat to you because it's in Jubilee, and Dr. Chikati is a problem to you in Tongaren. So my second point.
Yes.
my second point is that it's wrong for us using this particular platform again to profile communities as being corrupt, being this, being that, just for purposes of suiting our argument. If it is really a question of being given opportunities, the lawyers, we did not vote for Uhuru at all. We did not vote for Uhuru and Ruto. But Uhuru and Ruto have given the entire IEBC to lawyers. Which votes were they returning? Which favor were they returning? They have also given lawyers the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
Terrible positions.
They have given
positions.
Listen, this is the truth.
Terrible positions.
They have given the lawyers the Ministry of Devolution through Eugene Omalwa.
And removed planning.
They have
removed planning, removed.
Why is that so impatient today with you? Is do you have a problem?
No, I don't have a problem.
Yes.
No, but
You have to be this.
no, but you're becoming a heckler.
It's heckling.
Today, Sally, I don't know what he smokes.
I prefer the truth.
Tell you whatever you smoke this morning. Don't finish. I need to speak to Aaron.
But I must have a right of reply.
Yeah, you will reply. But Aaron has been rather quiet. You'll respond. Yes.
They have given us the key, Ministry of Sports. We are the ones who are controlling the agenda of the youth in the country. Youth who are the majority in the country. What you people should do, you should now adopt different strategies to ensure that if it is the presidency that allows your community to get a lion's share, you drive yourself into that office.
Okay.
And not exercise politics of wailing and complaining as if you are in a funeral. Do something the way some of us are doing something.
Okay.
Move on and strategize so as to be part or form the next government.
Aaron.
That's the future.
Yes.
This country.
You know,
You have spoken very well, buddy. I mean, those are called the facts.
Yes. Let Aaron Cheriot speak.
thank you, Ken.
Yes.
You know, there are two things that I want to say. One is to correct Jakoyo.
Yes.
Because Jakoyo wants to mislead the country. He wants to put words into my own mouth. While what I said it in very plain and simple English. So I don't know where he got it lost in translation, because I was addressing the issue of the project of Kisumu Oil Jetty having been done despite it not have been in the budget estimates of KPC. And I raised the issue and I said the president went into a meeting of EAC heads of states. It was one of the agreed projects, and made commitments that it needs to be fast-tracked, came and issued instructions through Kinyua. I didn't say Kinyua had anything to do with how it was done, how it was procured. I think that is plain and simple. But on to more important issues. I think I said earlier, Ken, that we shall lose a very great opportunity and moment for our country to once and for all, in all finality, slay the dragon of corruption if we pursue the line of thought that we are being encouraged to pursue this morning, where we are being told, oh, please focus when we reduce the whole discussion into about this community or the other. I have said for the record that I support the president on this war on corruption 100%, at day, at night, on land, sea and air. There's no debate about it. But does it mean that I am supposed to abrogate my responsibilities as a member of parliament and just give a stamp of approval to DPP and DCI when I see that some of the things that they are doing do not make sense to me? They're in clear violation of this constitution. You know, the chapter 6 that you quote, Jakoyo, is part of this document, just as Article 49 and Article 50 on rights of accused persons and the right to a fair trial, which is a simple thing that we are calling on the DCI and DPP to adhere to. Okay. You know, I have always questioned, what is all this rush, for example, sometimes to arrest people on a Friday, then bring them to court on a Monday? while you have no intention of absolutely. You know, in a country where proper justice system works, the DPP gets to notify and tell you, Jakoyo, I am now ready with your file. Let us meet in court tomorrow. And you proceed. He presents a case before the judges, and you defend yourself. But this sadistic view that our DCI continues to have, where you want to appear to be punitive from the very onset, that is not what our Constitution envisioned. Our Constitution gave equal rights to every Kenyan. Whether you are accused or free, let them be taken. There is a history. Let us not forget the history.
Okay.
During the dark days of Kanu, people used to be taken to torture chambers. And that is why when we wrote this Constitution, we made sure that we said that even for those that are accused, they have their rights, and let them be treated as much as possible.
Okay.
There are questions that you are raising on the process that is being followed. And we shouldn't be told, keep quiet. You're opposed, you're opposed to the war on corruption. I'd wish to know from DCI Kinoti, for example, your own minister, CS Matiangi, speaking in at DCI headquarters, told the country that somebody had imported sugar that was laced with mercury. At the same time, we were having the maize crisis. What is all this hurry about the maize alone? And he has completely gone silent
on the sugar.
On sugar. Is it because Rai, who is known to be a friend of, as a brother to a certain big man, are business partners? That's why DCI Kinoti has gone silent on sugar. What happened to Ruaraka, who is in jail because of NYS1? You know, we should at some point get tired of all these suckers and merry-go-round where you are treated to, oh, a receptionist is making this money. Then we get angry, and that is the end of it.
Okay.
I can bet if we do not change tact, this young man that is on the standard today, in another 2 years, he'll just be another Ngirita, another Kafura,
be a governor somewhere.
or be a governor somewhere.
You have a right. Gentlemen, just hold. Before you respond, we have only 5 minutes on the clock. So a minute each. So even as you respond, just know it's your minute. Just after a minute, I'll have to cut you short. We have, yes.
Boni Halwale accused me of certain things which are neither here nor true. But the truth of the matter was that Lusaka was deeply involved in the removal of Wetangula from that position, because the appointment of Wetangula came from NASA, the principals. So if he had accepted that as the way of appointing him, how come now he changed and used a different thing? And again, he received another letter telling me that the NASA position stands. And he still went ahead and allowed that to happen. So he was complicit, and I heard him clearly in my own village celebrating about it and saying, now that one, I've finished him.
Okay.
Kalwale, you need to accept one thing. Do you want to change our wrong-headed politics, or you want to join it? Because like with the way you are talking, you are happy joining our wrong-headed politics. For me, I'm saying no. Let's watch. Is this the right way? Finally, he also accused me that I just don't like the other side because my opponent for the last 3 elections is on that side. My opponent from the last 3 elections has been appointed Special Secretary for Strategy and Delivery in the Deputy President's office. So you know the President has a Strategy and Delivery unit. The Deputy President also has a Strategy and Delivery unit. That's why I've always argued that these two are Siamese twins under the new constitution, President and Deputy. So they have done their thing for 10 years. They should both go. What is it that Ruto wants to do in the next 10 years that he has not done? He should not stand in 2022.
Boni, you have a minute, please. We are short of time.
I have a lot of respect for what my brother is saying. It is not that you will reinvent the wheel. The politics of the country that we are playing today has been played before, and it has been played by other different countries. The strategy is to embrace change. It is our own patriarch, who you know, Masinde Muliro, who said that if you don't embrace change, change will change you.
Are you changing, or you are going backwards?
That's
not, you're going backwards.
I assume bodies that we can't go backwards.
I'm finished.
Okay.
He's going backwards.
1 minute.
I just have a Bible verse, James chapter 2, verse 10, that I want the DCI Kinoti and the DPP Nurdin Haji to read this morning as they begin their work. It says that for whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbled at just one point is guilty of breaking the whole law. I just want them to be fair, not to have any sacred cows. We want to see heads roll on sugar, we want to see heads roll on least medical equipment, you know, where government is hiring even cotton wool. And we have tried to investigate. 2 committees of parliament have asked for the contracts from Ministry of Health on those least medical equipment.
Nothing.
None has been forthcoming. We have never seen DCI there. We have containers. Somebody went and painted containers and sold them to the government for 10 million Kenya shillings, made a whooping 5 billion. They are still in office. So the thing is, instead of giving us long lectures, Bwana Kinoti, can you do your work and don't do it selectively?
You know, Ken, in today's Star, it was said Kalenjin MPs are planning an onslaught on the DCI and the DPP. The onslaught has just begun. It is in the Star today. And let me tell my friend Aaron, that we are not saying you are wrong to point them out. We are only saying it is better to say, push them to do a holistic approach to fighting corruption. Come on, everybody was just quiet when you're talking. Everybody was, we were quiet, you had your time. We are saying they are working. They need the help. I think on a forum like this, we need to even interrogate what the courts are doing to impede the course of justice, because the courts are a big problem. I think DCI Kinoti and Nurdin Haji are spot on.
Okay.
I have my doubts about the EACC. But now let me conclude by saying, Bonnie, there's something called coalition agreement, which is allowed in Elections Act. It was with Parliament when Lusaka opened the window for that debate. Wetangula, by law, is the leader of minority. The coalition happened when he read that ruling. That I know, and you know me in issues of parliament, I take my time to understand them. And lastly, we are not profiling anybody. We are only saying, if you throw a stone, in a game there is a division called Yala. We always say, if you throw a stone into any home, it will either fall on an engineer or a doctor or a teacher or a professor. This is the way Jubilee government is constituted. If you throw a stone, it will fall on either a Kalenjin or a Kikuyu. They are the people who have the opportunity which you spoke about, and they are the ones who took the ineptitude, the opportunity and the ineptitude of the Jubilee government to plunder our country.
Okay. Lastly, Senator.
Yes, just make 2 very quick points. The first is because I sit in the House of Senate. I was there during the process of when Wetangula was removed as a minority leader. There was a meeting, and I think that's important for the gentleman to understand. My good friend Halwale was not in, Eseli does not sit in the Senate. There was a big meeting of senators from the NASA side, actually, and especially, and they passed a resolution. They took that written resolution to the speaker.
Okay.
And when that was disputed, they went and held another meeting and took a second resolution and said, this is how it is. I think that's a fact, and that's the truth of how that happened. Yes. Now, secondly, is on this big debate we have had this morning on the war against corruption and what's happening. And, you know, Ken, the second line of our national anthem says, justice be our shield and defender. And that is why we all clamored for 25 years for this book, called our Constitution. And unless we remain true to it, even at times when we are passionate about events, at times when I may feel maybe I'm not well treated, at times when I may want certain results, or at times maybe when I want to get justice my own way, unless we remain true to this book and say, if you come and accuse me according to this book of law. And if you want to judge me according to this book. Don't judge me in your version. But if also it comes to the time for me to be put to the test again on this book, if indeed I have been true to my role, to my duty, to my oath, then so be it. What I'm saying is for a just community, for the Kenya I want to live in the next many years, and my children to live in, we have to change course. And changing course means that we also now have to start changing our minds and living for what we are supposed to live for. Justice for all our people.
Thank you, gentlemen. We are completely out of time. I wish I had a few seconds to allow you to wish your constituents and your people Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'll do it on your behalf. Thank you very much for coming to share with us. This is our last show on People and Politics for 2018. See you next year, and thank you very much for being faithful to the show. My name is Ken. The gifts for next, we'll have them. Thank you for coming, and thanks for watching. Coming right after this is Living with Us. Good morning.